already properly introduced myself in the beginning of these videos. But hi guys, it's Caitlin here. I hope you're settled in for a long haul on this one because I've got about six pages of notes here to cover for you. So grab yourselves a pen and a notebook because today I'm going to talk about my experiences applying for teaching in South Korea. But before we get into that, check this out. Drum roll noise here. I officially got offered a teaching job. We've come full circle now. I am officially going to be moving to Korea to start teaching English. So yes, I have a job now. Probably gonna lose subscribers for a dab. So we'll get more into that later. Right now, I'm just going to, like the title of this video says, what should I apply for? Since there's quite a few options you can have for teaching English in Korea. The main two that everybody seems to know are like public school versus private school. And so the basic rundown on those, if you don't already know, you can Google if you want to skip through all this. I'll put different time stamps, whatever, with talking points down in this description box below. So if you want to skip this and Google it yourself, you do you. Both public school and private school, you're going to generally be teaching middle schoolers or elementary schoolers. So with public schools, forgive me if I look down a lot. With public schools, your general teaching hours are between usually like 8:30, 9 o'clock, and 4:30. You teach Monday through Friday. You have the weekends off. You will have larger classes, generally 25-ish to 30 students from what my friends have told me and what I've seen. Holidays off, more vacation, and you have to make your lesson plans. For public schools, the main intake periods are fall, which is roughly around August, September, and spring, which is around March, April. And there's generally more intake in the spring. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about when to apply. For private schools, your hours are going to vary depending on the school. Some I've seen are from 9 to 6. I've seen from 1 to 10. I've seen from 9 to 7. I've even seen from like 12 to 10. So it all just depends, again, on the school and maybe where, all just depends on the school. You're going to have smaller classes, generally maybe 10 to 15 students. You might have to teach a Saturday here and there, depends on the school. You're going to end up having to work most holidays, and you're only going to get about 10 vacation days. Generally, the level of English of students in hagwons will be higher, but again, it just depends on how your class is. And you will, from what I've researched, you generally have a pretty strict curriculum that you have to stick to when teaching students at hagwon. Now, one that was entirely new to me that I'm actually going to be teaching at is an English village. And now English villages, from what I've seen, I interviewed with 2 of them and just researching them, you work around 9 to 6 for a morning shift, or they might have an evening shift, which goes from like 12 to 8:30, using my school for an example. You will work on Saturdays, especially during the busy season, like summer and winter camps. During slower times, you might only work Monday through Friday. It is going to be a camp-style run school. So kids will come in and stay for a week and then leave. So unlike with public schools and private schools, the hagwons, where you have generally, you'll have the same students for public schools, and hagwons generally you'll have the same students. In an English village, you could have new students coming through every single week, varying from like young elementary up to maybe some middle schoolers. You're going to teach more situational English, like what to say in a bank, how to shop at a grocery store, how to go clothes shopping, learning how to cook, things like that. More kind of real-world English instead of maybe like textbook cramming at a hagwon for tests, because that's generally what hagwons are used for. And you just stop saying generally so much. And at least with my school, you're given lessons, but they leave some wiggle room for you to kind of be creative and kind of maybe throw your own spin on some things. One I interviewed with, you plan. You have like one day where you just plan and you reuse the same lesson plan every week for the same kids, and yeah, I didn't like that one. What do I need to teach English in South Korea? Well, you need to be from an English-speaking country. There's a list of like 7 or 8 different countries that are acceptable. So even if you speak English fluently, but you're not from one of these countries that they list, you can't be a teacher. I don't know why. They don't know why there's not a test you can take, because I have some friends who are from non-English speaking countries who speak better English than I do. But hey, you have to have a minimum 4-year college degree, bachelor's degree. It could be in any field. If it's more specifically in English or like linguistics, you can get on a higher pay salary. The exception is if you apply to the TALK program. I can't remember what that stands for. I had a friend who did it, but you only need 2 years of a degree, and you can apply to teach English. I really don't know much about TALK, but again, as I'm going to say a lot, Google is your friend. And then you also need a Teaching English as a Second Language certificate, which you can get online. I got mine through my school. You also need to have copies of your diploma, your teaching certificate, and a background check notarized and apostilled. And if you don't really know what that is, like I did, I had no idea. I'll put a, if you go to Korvia's website, I don't want to flood my description box with links, but if you go to Korvia's website or just Google Korvia notarized, Korvia apostille, they have a very good resource that explains exactly what a notarized document is or an apostille document is, and how to get your background check in the quickest way possible. I learned that banks can notarize copies of your documents for you for free. The one I went to did it for free. Just call up a nearby bank. Doesn't necessarily have to be your bank, and ask. And then for getting your documents apostilled, Google document apostille for whatever your state is. I found mine on Minnesota's government website. It gave me a location. I went in. I was in and out in like 15-20 minutes. You paid like $15 per document, for me at least, so it was really quick, relatively simple. But you need to get your document notarized first before you can get it apostilled. Alright, that's important. It has to be notarized first. Okay, so you've filled in your applications and sent them to Korvia, or yeah, I did all mine through Korvia. I don't know where else you'd send it. Then you have interviews. So I had an interview for an EPIK recruiter, and then an interview for a GEPIK recruiter. Now, I did my EPIK application, I did my Korvia application long before like the EPIK and GEPIK applications opened. So, yeah, as with any recruiting company, you apply and then they interview you and assign you a recruiter. Forgot that part. So yeah, I had an EPIK recruiter, and then I had a GEPIK recruiter. And so both interviews were pretty similar from what I can remember. This was a few months ago. They just asked you to talk about yourself. They kind of ask you some questions from your resume, any teaching experience you have. You talk about location preference. I had filled out on my application with Korvia that I had tattoos, so we talked about the tattoos I have, because tattoos are kind of like a taboo thing in Korea. And through like the EPIK and GEPIK program, most schools are going to want you to cover them up. So yeah, they'll ask you like if you're comfortable in new environments, how you feel about traveling to a new country, stuff like that. And then you can ask questions to them. Ask a lot of questions. Like if you're unsure exactly how EPIK and GEPIK work, either from this or from your research, or you just want to like re-clarify something, ask them. That's what they're there for. They're there to help you. They're there to answer your questions. So don't be afraid to ask. Alright, now I'm going to talk into my experience using Korvia to apply for the EPIK program and the GEPIK program. EPIK, GEPIK. And all this information is online through just online through Google. I found a bunch of videos on YouTube. This has been talked about everywhere, but I'm just going to talk about my personal experience because I kind of did a lot. Rundown of EPIK. You can be placed literally anywhere in South Korea. So you can list your preferences though of like where you want to be, but you can be placed rural or urban. So GEPIK is literally all over Korea. GEPIK is run on a first come first served basis. So if you are dead set on a certain location, you want to get your application in as soon as that deadline opens. So look online to see generally when that is. I can't remember exactly what it was this year, but we'll get into that later. So yeah, EPIK runs on a first come first serve basis. So places like Seoul and Busan and maybe Daegu, they fill up really, really quickly because everybody wants to teach there. And so also with EPIK, you get one job location. You see that? One. They will tell you like the province you're in, kind of the general area, but you won't find out the city or the school you are teaching at until you get over to Korea and you are done with your EPIK like teacher training. So if you're the kind of person that like needs to know exactly where you're going to be teaching and aren't comfortable with kind of not knowing, you might want to look into some other program because you get the one location, and if you don't like it and don't take it, like that's it. They don't offer you another one. You fill out the application online. I did it through Korvia's website. It was pretty simple. The hardest part is the lesson plan. So you submit a lesson plan as part of your EPIK application. Now for GEPIK, the one with the G, this is for the Gyeonggi area, which is the area that surrounds Seoul, the main city in Korea, the one that probably everybody knows. Oh, and these are both for public schools, by the way. And so the way GEPIK works is your recruiter will send your applications to schools, and then the schools will decide if they want to interview you or not for a position. They give you so in this sense you have a little more freedom to pick where you want to be. You also set your location preference when you apply if there's certain cities you want to teach in, because this is all within the Gyeonggi province. But in the end, ultimately, it's the schools that decide if they want to interview or not if you apply to that school. I filled out my application also on Korvia. This one was it was simpler in the sense that you didn't have to do a lesson plan, but you had to do an introduction video, which as someone who obviously makes videos, I thought would be pretty easy. But trying to figure out a way to talk about yourself for 2 minutes is kind of tricky. There's a bunch of videos and whatever tips other people have done about how to make your introduction video. I'm not going to get super into like the tips side of it, but basically just figure out the best way to like get your personality across and talk about like your teaching philosophy, any teaching experience you've had, and things kind of like that. I will actually link the introduction video I made in a card right up here so you can check out my intro video and see what I did.